Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And we're really excited today. We are here to share with you the second part of our series where we picked the best movie from every year of our lives. And is a lot of fun. And I wasn't doing this alone. I am film critic Grace Wagner, and Terry's here with me.
Hi.
Yes. So this was fun. And now we're diving into the second part. And we definitely want to get your feedback. So let us know what your picks would be and what you think of our picks. All right. What do you have for 95?
Clueless.
Yeah, same.
This was another hard
The
year for
first
me.
match.
Yeah, but I had to go with Clueless
Yeah.
because, come on, you can't go wrong with
It's
Clueless.
so funny. It's so quotable. It's got such a classic story of Emma and Cher is such an endearing character. It's so good. Yeah.
It's so ironic we're talking about this right now because on Twitter right now, there is that. Have you seen the Alicia Silverstone debate that's going on Twitter right
No,
now?
no. What'd
Because
she
apparently
do?
there's a video of her in London where she ate a mystery fruit off of somebody, what she thought was a mystery fruit, and it's nightshade. And
Oh.
she had two pieces, and people are like, "Is she alive? She ate poison." And now nobody,
So I
now the
know
whole
she's pretty
question,
new agey,
yes, but it's so funny we're talking about this right now because people are questioning whether she survived the nightshade debacle or not. No word yet,
Wow.
guys. We'll find out when this comes out if she's alive or dead.
Well, it's our first match of this whole
It
thing, which is
is.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
wonder if it, yeah. Well, I wonder
Yeah.
if we'll have any more.
It was hard for me to not pick Toy Story
I
that
know.
I
Yeah.
do love Toy Story. But
Iconic
let's
clothing too in Clueless. That
see.
changed people forever in the 90s.
For 96.
The birdcage.
Same.
Yeah,
Same. I have it too. Yeah.
there's
It's
not one. If I run across this movie, I must sit down and watch it. I've watched it
mhm.
countless times. I lost track. I just love what I love their
It's so funny.
relationship. It's so funny. I love their relationship.
Hmm.
And the more I watch it, was like the really sacrifices they're making for their ungrateful son.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
even and they try and we're not supposed to like certain characters, but they make all characters kind of likable, and we see through their eyes why they're like that. But like,
Hmm.
what a cast too this movie has. But that
Hmm.
son is worthless. I would have told him to kick rocks, but what they do to appease him, and but it's
Yeah.
it's wonderful, and it's a beautiful relationship as well at the center of it. But
Hmm.
like, yeah,
It's really
it's
funny.
so
Yeah.
funny and
Funny
so
saves
like,
all, as I always say. And this is just a very funny movie. All right. Well, what do you have for 97?
oh man, I can't believe I went with this one, but I ended up going with Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, and I was looking through all the things. I was like, really? I'm going to end up on Titanic, but I did love it.
It is a
I
good
did love
movie.
it.
Yeah. And the
Yeah,
costumes are
totally. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Uh, well, I had to go with Anastasia. I
Yeah.
love Anastasia. I love the songs. I love the romance. I even like Rasputin. I think he's fun, over the
He's
top.
a
Dark of the
fun
Night
villain.
is a
Yeah.
banger. I don't care what everyone says. It's I know it has its flaws, but I really do love it. So,
It is a
my God.
joyous watch.
So what do you have for 98?
The Parent Trap remake
Oh, I love that
with
too.
Lindsay Lohan. I mean, I mean, I love this movie. I was already an adult by the time this came out, but I didn't care because I do have a great love for the original Parent Trap. And I
Hmm.
was like,
It's
what a
so good.
wonderful remake that it doesn't suck. Because
Hmm.
that's always like the remakes tend to sometimes not be good,
Hmm.
but this one was just so joyous,
Hmm.
and Lindsay
Yeah.
Lohan was so good and the
It
parents are so good. The
yeah.
idea is bonkers. Why
It
would you
really is.
split twins? I mean, ridiculous, but it
You're
is,
gonna keep your child away from their loving parent and not tell
yeah.
them they have a sibling and twin no less
Unbelievable.
is bonkers,
Unbelievable. And then they meet at
but it's
camp of
fun.
all things. It's fun. I do think that if done right, Disney could remake this movie because
Yeah,
it's
I
been a
think so
long
too.
time. And
Hmm.
maybe they could do it with an Asian
Oh,
family
that'd be fun.
or something like do it from a different perspective.
Uh-huh.
And but I think you could still remake this if
We
done right. It could be funny and
we
charming.
have a ranking of the Parent Trap movies. Me and Marissa did because there's also the made for TV movies
Which
There's
involved triplets, Rachel.
yes, two of them. Two of them involved
Yeah.
the triplets.
Yep.
And so yeah, people might not. And then there was another remake in the 90s, and then
Yeah.
and then there was Parent Trap 2. So people might not realize that there's
Yeah. It
that
conti
there's
now, yeah,
5 Parent Trap movies.
so hard to find those TV movies though.
Yeah,
Come
they're
on,
not on
Disney
Disney
Plus, you
Plus. They should
cowards. Put
be.
them on
They
there.
should
I know it's
be.
got Haley Mills is in them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on, guys.
Well, my 98, I also went with a remake. I had to go with You've Got Mail.
Oh, yes. Wonderful
I
as
love it
well.
so much. I love Nora Ephron's script. It's perfect. It's so funny. There's so many iconic scenes. It's so quotable. Incredible cast, of course, Tom and Meg, but Greg Kinnear. I love Parker Posey in it. I love Dave Chappelle in
She's
it.
so
Gene
good.
Stapleton's hilarious.
You're
Dabney
totally-
Coleman, I love as his dad. Don't
What
romanticize
a,
them.
what a modern type of family he has. Well, this is
Yes.
my
We're an
sister and
American
this is my
family.
uncle. Yeah, because his sister and his uncle are way younger than him.
Yeah.
And at that moment, you're like, yes, that is today's family. It
Yeah.
always was, though, Rachel, if you think about it.
Yeah.
There were always people
Sure.
who had like siblings
Yeah.
and uncles who were younger than him.
We
you know?
are an American family. FOX. I just love it.
It's wonderful.
I've probably seen it the most out of any movie on this list, except for maybe Little Mermaid.
It is great.
I love it.
And I can't believe the
caviar is a
discourse.
garnish.
People,
Taking all
come
the
on.
caviar.
Yeah, the discourse with these movies that I love that people have today. I just don't want to accept it. No, you're wrong.
I just don't think they're everybody can feel however they feel, but in my opinion, if you really pay attention to the script and both of their journeys, it's all there. It's all there.
It's all there. It is.
So
absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely love it. I even love her clothes. I love her. I love it how it uses New York. It's like a love letter to New York.
It totally is.
Go to Grace Papaya and the cheese shop and the other things.
And you know what? It's also wonderful in the aspect of she doesn't get what she wants, really, in essence, when it comes to her bookstore.
The store closes.
Yeah, we rarely get that. Like, I fought and I lost, but I'm going to be okay. We rarely get that.
And that's why in both of their characters, the most key scene is when he brings her the flowers when she's sick. Because that's where she basically tears down his whole philosophy of the Godfather.
And he knows, too, at that point that they are
writing.
That they're writing. She doesn't know it's him, but he already knows, and he's accepted to try to make this work. Which is
and because his dad had said, what if you to find the one person who fills you with glee, have you ever been with it? I've never been with anybody like that, have you? And he looks up and he's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's wonderful.
I love it so much. So one of these days we'll do a perfumery ranking. It's gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna happen. But okay, so what do you have for 99?
The Mummy.
Oh,
with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I just think this movie is such a fun adventure. And yeah, it's remaking the Mummy story, but but in a fun way. And I just remember my mother and I laughing so much through this whole time. When Brendan Fraser throws that chair at that guy to stop him, my mother was like, "Oh, it's so funny." I just remember her reaction. Just had a good time with how silly
it is a really good for that kind of movie. It's
it harkens back to like an old-fashioned type of adventure movie, which matches the setting of the 30s so perfectly. And it's just a fun, I don't know the sequel. I mean, even though I like The Mummy Returns, I don't know if it quite captures what The Mummy did, but there were fun movies. They were fun movies.
Well, my 99 is Office Space. And this movie,
gosh, Rachel, I know this. I almost picked this one. Yeah,
I love it so much. And when I was miserable in this office job that I had for 3 years, I was really unhappy. This movie was like life-saving to me. I mean, I watched it over and over again, and of course, The Office on television. But there was just something about needing to be understood. needing somebody to get it.
Right.
And so
You took my red stapler and
oh my gosh, there's so many.
My sister can't watch it because she gets PTSD over the fax machine and the printer.
Her
Just
boss with
what?
the flair.
Yeah,
The Nazis
but
had flair.
but my sister's like, yes, those print machines and fax machines never worked. She gets
Oh,
PTSD by
yeah.
watching it. And I was
And
like,
when
I
they
know.
destroy it, that's so satisfying.
The
Yeah.
best, the most relatable thing is the traffic. You're
Yeah.
like, let me move to this lane because it's moving faster, and then you get stuck.
Yeah.
And
It's
I do laugh so much at the guy is in traffic and he's listening to a rap song that he loves. He knows all the words, and then he stops singing it the minute he's like his car goes next to
yeah.
someone like, oh no, I can't sing these songs. And we've all been there with inappropriate,
Yeah.
songs that we're singing in situations. It's so true to life in an exaggerated
I
way.
just love anytime he's with the Bobs and he's talking to him.
Oh
He's
my
like, I have to
gosh.
tell, I have to
They
give
think he's
the
amazing too.
I have to report to five different managers. Like the only reason I do what I have to do is to avoid getting hassled,
And I love
Oh,
it because he gets hypnotized or whatever, and he's just this magnificent guy because he stops caring about work.
yeah.
Hey, have you gotten them PT PT reports?
GPS, not
That's whatever it
GPS,
was. Yeah, have you gotten them?
GTS reports.
Yeah, have you
And you got to
gotten?
have the cover. You got to have the cover on the report. You didn't have the
Oh
cover on
my
the
gosh!
report.
Every time his boss comes with a coffee cup, so
Yeah,
yeah,
he's so good in that role. Oh my
I know,
gosh.
it's so
What a
funny.
villain.
Such.
Can you move your desk over here?
It's just so
Yeah.
true to the working office life that movie
Yeah.
is.
It
It will kill
really,
your soul. I understand when
I
people
can't
say that.
overstate how much this movie, like, I needed to feel understood and to
Yeah,
laugh in
it's
those
so true.
years. This was years after it came out, but
But
it really
yes, because
spoke
it
to me.
gets it. It makes
It
fun of
really,
that. It does
yeah.
kill your soul.
It
You
does.
ever look at people who like, I love my office job, and you like raise your eyebrow, going, "Are you okay? Is
Yeah.
everything okay?" I don't know. I don't believe you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you have for 2000?
Gladiator
Oh, it's a good
with
one.
Russell
Yeah.
Crowe. I love this movie. I can't wait for that sequel. I hope
Yeah,
it's
they're spending
good.
a lot of money on it,
It
so it better be
looks
good.
good too. I don't even care that Denzel Washington is like, I don't, what accent, who cares? I was like, I can't wait to see all of this,
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, I have Return to Me for
Yes,
2000. I
wonderful movie.
absolutely love this movie. I love
Wonderful.
the old people. I love the the their relationship. I love the fact that their relationship is so sweet and tender that he doesn't even realize she has a giant scar on her chest until well into, dating
Yeah.
and that doesn't have to get steamy. It can be a sweet relationship and their chemistry is so great and Bonnie Hunt's so
It's wonderful.
hilarious with Jim Belushi. They're raising those kids.
One of those
They're, they're the best. And
supportive friends. It's just a wonderful
it might be a
story
perfect
to,
movie too. I really
it's
can't think of anything
true.
I would change in it. It
It's
is,
and Bonnie Hunt does such a good job directing it. And it
oh,
really is a movie about second chances. Her second chance
mhm.
at life with her new heart and
Yeah.
his second chance in love.
Maybe you were always meant to be with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
it's
so
so
good.
wonderful. David Allen Greer is so good in it
Oh,
too.
yeah, great
Yeah.
cast.
Wonderful.
So good. So what do you have for 2001?
I have Riding in Cars with Boys,
Oh, I've never
which
seen this.
stars Drew Barrymore, and it has
Uh-huh.
Brittany Murphy in it. And basically, it's a story about a pregnant teenager in
Uh-huh.
the late 50s, 60s, and just how she screwed up immensely being a
Yeah.
single mom, and the ups and downs, and how and really a reckoning with her and her son as an adult as you look back. And it's based on a book, a true story, autobiographical book, which I read. And let me tell you something, Rachel. This movie does wonders softening up what happened in real life.
Oh.
Because there's no way you would have liked her if it was the truth. Because I'm like, lady, I understand you looking back, but yeah, I would have been mad at your son too if you wrote all this down. Like, you were not that great. But also, you're teenage moms at that time. What do you know at 15, right? You don't know nothing. And you're stuck on your own and all the mistakes you made. So it's a story about growing up before you're ready to, redemption, mother and son relationship. And you're not always going to be perfect. And I do think it's a wonderful movie. If you watch the trailer, none of those scenes are in the movie because they apparently cut a lot out of it, but it is directed by Penny Marshall. And I think Brittany Murphy is really good in this movie as also a fellow pregnant teenage friend,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, I've never
yeah,
seen this one. I've heard about it.
it's interesting. It's like a smaller movie, it's not. Oh, and who plays the dad? Who plays? Oh, James Wood plays her dad. Penny Marshall plays her mom. It's a very interesting take about. It's just the struggles. I mean, like, oh, they also made her husband because she has to marry. They're barely teenagers and they got to get married, but they do soften him up so much more too from what he really was in the book. Rachel, you got it. This book is a very quick read, but what an interesting uh comparison to put the two and two together. But I do like the theme of like you can screw up, but you can also make up, you can also do right by your child.
Hmm.
It's not too late to like mend those fences, mend those bridges, not only between her and her parents, but her and her son when he's an adult. So,
Mm. Hmm. Well, my 2001, I had to go with Spirited Away.
yes.
It didn't come out until later in the States, but that's the official. So I went with that one for this one. And Spirited Away, it's one of the most creative, inventive movies I've ever seen. Every frame is a surprise, is something new and unexpected, whether it's a giant baby or the dragon that turns into paper, or it's just like constantly surprising you. And then it also, I think, has something to say about Chihiro and growing up, and being able to kind of fight for her parents, even though they're flawed. And I love that in a movie, and it's just so beautiful and incredible. It's a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you have? 2002.
I have the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers,
Yeah.
which is my favorite of the trilogy. This
Mm-hmm.
one I watch more than the other two. I mean, they're all such good movies, but there's just
Yeah.
something about this one, like the battle at Helm's Deep. It's like breathtaking what he did. And to know that Peter Jackson, they filmed all of these movies back to back, but when he was editing this together, Peter Jackson made some really hard choices and he was like, we're gonna cut Liv Tyler out of this battle. We're gonna do this. So he even realized and fixed this movie to what he thought was better. And I think all the changes work that he made to it,
Mm.
and sort of the last minute, he was always tinkering right
Plus, you
before
can
it came
always have
out.
those extended cuts anyway.
And the extended cuts don't add those scenes back in either. The extended cut is also wonderful, but I don't know, it's so thrilling. Like every time these movies ended, I was like, I can't wait till I gotta wait till next year to see how this ends.
Yeah,
And I've
it's
never
true.
cared about the length of it. I've always been so immersed in this world. And it actually made me appreciate the Lord of the Rings books
Yeah,
more.
me
Because
too.
while I love The Hobbit, I wasn't that crazy about the actual books of the Lord of the Rings, but I appreciated it so much more because I went back to read them. And I just think
Yeah.
the world building was wonderful. What an achievement too,
Yeah,
at a time when fantasy wasn't really, all that, and what he did with miniatures and just the
true.
look of it. Boy,
Yeah,
that
they
battle
hold
at
up. They
Helm's
still
Deep,
look great.
yeah,
I
is
saw them not that long
incredible.
ago. I
Yeah,
watched all three, and they hold up well. They
they're
really do.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I have My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes, yeah, of
It's,
course.
it's
And
just
a
it's
banger.
it's so funny. They have such amazing chemistry. I love
Yeah,
the fact that they prioritize their relationship over anything else.
absolutely.
There's never like, oh, we're gonna break up, never.
No.
And so it just does this kind of thing so well, and it's just, as I always say, funny saves all, and this is genuinely really funny, and it's one of my favorite rom
It
coms.
is, it's totally. And
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what you guys feel about the sequels that came out, the relationship is always a priority. They're never
Yeah,
like the sequels do not focus on them breaking up and getting back together. They do not do that. And it's wonderful to continue to see like a marriage working out without like those type of problems. But you're right.
yeah,
I mean, they don't put in like, oh, we can't get married this way. Like, I won't marry you now, like so many times they do. No, they work through their problems and it's wonderful. But
yeah.
I will say Fantastic doesn't work for everything like in that movie. Oh no, Windex it was, right?
Windex. Yeah,
Windex. It doesn't work
Windex.
for my mother's like, that doesn't work. When she first watched, she's like, you know how many times I sprayed myself with Windex by accident? She doesn't my mother, that was the one thing she took away from this movie that was unrealistic, Rachel, the Windex.
Well, what do you have for 2003?
I have X2, X-Men United. Okay, this franchise means a lot to me, and the X-Men were like the first comic book thing I ever truly loved outside of Batman. And so and I loved the cartoon, and when the first X-Men movie came out, it was like, yes, finally something like good in the comic book movies. And then this movie outdid that one, and it just meant a lot to me. And I hold the Fox universe and the X-Men movies in sort of this bubble of
I do
I
kind
love
of
them, even though
resent.
they're not perfect. But
I do resent Last Stand though, because it ruins the ending for Jean Grey,
yes, it
in
does.
that they worked so hard for X2. Like
It is very true, and that is so many things when it's like it is an unperfect universe. It's an
Yeah.
unperfect world
Yeah.
for sure. But on X2 it's
But I
just
do
so great.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
it's
like X2 a lot. I have for 2003, I have Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Oh,
I wanted to put
absolutely.
one of them.
Yeah, what a way to
And
end. Yeah.
an incredible ending, so moving. When Samwise, you can't climb up, I can't climb up for you. And then it makes that, and the whole ending with Gollum and everything is so great. And there are some self-indulgent things as far as like it ends, 4 times and all this
That
stuff,
did
but
not bother me
it
though at
didn't bother
all.
me because I was just there for the journey.
Yeah, we
And
had to close so many chapters, really.
yeah, yeah. And such just great characters, great. I'm normally not a fantasy person. I'm normally not into this kind of storytelling, but this was just so well done.
This is a great series to bridge that gap if you're not really too much into fantasy.
Yeah.
Because it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. What's your 2004?
Boy, I went with The Notebook.
Mm.
I did love this movie. I think this was the first Nicholas Sparks anything for me that I had ever seen or heard about. I didn't know he existed before this movie, but I don't know, there's something so touching about the love story. And I just loved the adult versions of them and then the younger versions of them. I think everybody's so good. And I know with the recent passing of Jenna Rollins, everybody's talking about The Notebook. She did more than just The Notebook, people. Like she's got a great career to watch for. But I don't know. I'm all for that romance, like drama.
Yeah,
Sadness.
well, I mean, and they managed to take some pretty unlikable characters, and because of the chemistry
Yes.
and the way everything that they make it work. For mine for 2004, I have Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
Great comic book movie, great movie. And Doc Ock is such a good villain. He has motivation, he makes sense, and the like identity crisis that Peter goes through is so well done, and you feel for him. Like what is he going to have to sacrifice in order to help people to be this super. It's just great. And
another thing with these trilogies like the X-Men too, like the second movie is better than the first, and then you get to the third movie and you're like, what went wrong here?
That's true. That's
true. It's like it ends up with it. You get so excited and then it's a disappointment.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what do you have 2005?
All right, I went with, this is going to be controversial, but my favorite of the trilogy, Batman Begins.
Oh, yeah.
I like it more than The Dark Knight. I said it. The Dark Knight is a good movie, but it ain't the greatest comic book movie ever. Grab them pearls. Get the smelling salts out. No, I love Batman Begins. I love the choices Christian Bale made in playing Bruce Wayne and in playing his, the Batman. I don't care about the voice. To me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I just like the origins and I like the look of the world. Like they built all of that in sets. They did what they had to do with the amount of money that they had. And I think it's a good origin story because we know Batman, the story so much. Like if I see his mom die one more time, I'm going to lose it, right? Because we know it so well at this point. But I think it does a good job in showing the training, how he got started, the like, we messed up on these masks. We got to get another mask. And Alfred is so good in this movie. And he's like, well, we better order a whole bunch so it doesn't look suspicious, And the way that he gets to do all of this, I just think it's it's a really good origin story, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
freshens up Batman. We needed Batman to be
Mhm.
fresh when this came out.
Yeah, I mean, because before we just had the Schumacher, so we
Yeah.
needed we needed.
Mm-mm. No way.
So for 2005, I actually have Pride and Prejudice, Keira Knightley.
Yes.
I really appreciate that this has like a little bit of a different approach to. I think that Joe Wright's a beautiful filmmaker. It certainly makes a lovely movie. But I like the fact that they kind of made Darcy more just sort of awkward and shy than he is actually even that much of a jerk in this. And it's really more Lizzie that kind of changes and evolves because Kira was more of the star. But I like that. I think it's cool to have a different take on this story and, to portray the characters in a unique way. And I do think they have a nice chemistry, and it's one of the greatest stories ever written. So it's one of those ones that's hard to do wrong. And like I said, it's such a beautiful movie. And the whole hand clasp scene is so great. There's little moments like that are so swoony. And so yeah,
Yes, you
I
like this
really
movie
like
far
it.
more than I do.
Yeah, I really like it.
I
I
don't, but
do.
there's things I do appreciate it. The cast is very good. I do think having Matthew McFadyen as Darcy was a good casting choice.
Yeah, and you got to do something different. If you're going to retell this story, you can't just have it like they'd already done the by the book accurate Colin Firth. Like you're not going to be able to do it any better than that. So
Yes,
like,
and that is so beloved as well.
yeah,
So you
and I
have to
love it.
freshen it up. Yeah,
I love it, but I'm not always up for watching a 5-hour movie. I like
exactly.
watching
Yeah.
this. I really do. So
Some beautiful visuals of like when she's
Oh,
on the
yeah.
rocks and just
Oh, yeah.
looking for it. I will give this movie that credit, even though it's not my favorite. There is some wonderful moments, man. The cast is good. And so many people before they became famous are in this movie too.
That's true.
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
All right. What do you have? 2006.
I have a movie from, I'm not certain. I think this movie is from Germany and the Netherlands. I think one or the other, but it's I'm sorry. It is Black Book, and it's directed by Paul Verhoeven, actually.
Oh, okay.
And the lead star is Carice Van Houten or Houten. People would know her from Game of Thrones. But basically, it's set during World War II. And she is a Jewish woman in hiding, and she ends up, and she's in the Netherlands during this time. And she's a woman in hiding. It actually starts off in like the 60s in Israel, and then it flashes back to her time in hiding. She joins the resistance and infiltrates the Nazis. And so, and she falls in love with a Nazi soldier who isn't complete, like, I'm a soldier, I got to do what I do. It's very complicated, and it has lots of twists and turns and betrayals, and there's a lot of action, and it's like if you want to watch a kind of like spy thriller resistance, like World War II movie, Black Book is very interesting in what they do. It's like visually, I mean, it's like, I think it's one of my favorite Paul Verhoeven directed movies. I mean, and people know him from RoboCop and the stuff like that. But when he went and did stuff in his native language, it's great. So I would say check out Black Book. Yeah.
My 2006, this was not a great year. I did not have much to choose from, but I do love this movie. I have The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
In there. It's really funny, and great performance from Meryl Streep. And I love Emily Blunt in it. She has one of my favorite lines of only one more stomach flu to get to my ideal weight.
Did they say they were making a sequel to this movie? Don't do it, people.
They're doing a
Don't.
Broadway musical. I don't know about a sequel.
I heard that. I
but-
thought they said Meryl Streep goes, yes, I will be playing her again. I was like, don't do it, people. Can we just do one and done? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. What do you have 2007?
I have the 310 to Yuma remake. It's a
Mm.
Western starring Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. It is very good. It also stars Peter Fonda too. He plays a
Oh.
small role in it. And basically, Christian Bale is like, he's a guy trying to make it work to get money for his family and his farm. And he was wounded in the Civil War. And so there's a lot of, story about that. But he takes a job in delivering Russell Crowe to the train station to send him to jail, essentially, to send him to his trial. And the money, he needs the money because his son is sick and he's going to take the chance and do it, and kind of a redemption arc for himself. But also Russell Crowe's cohorts are the entire way are trying to break him free. And there is a kind of bonding, unexpected bonding that goes between Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. And the ending of the movie, like it just hits you and you're like, oh wow. And it's
Mm.
because of the bonding of these men, even though they're on different sides and chose different paths of life, they are more similar than not. They just chose different things. And I don't know,
Well,
it's a great remake. If you love
Mhm.
Westerns, both versions are good, but this is a great remake.
yeah, I haven't seen that. Well, for 2007, I have to go with Juno. It's one of my favorites. I
Yes.
love it. I love the script and the performances, and I just think it's so funny and so quotable and has such heart, and the growth that Juno goes on as a character through the course of the movie. Where especially in regards to Jennifer Garner's character and how she realizes that the world is a lot more complicated than she thought. And I don't know, I just love lines like, you're like the coolest guy I know, and you don't try it. You don't have to try it at all. He's like, I try really hard, actually. I just think that's really funny. And so I love it. And I love Allison Janney and J.K. Simmons as the parents. They're so funny. And so that's my 2007 pick. What about 2008?
I picked a Dutch movie. Now, this came out in 2008. It came out years later in America, but I chose the year that it came out because 2008 was a rough year. I chose Bride Flight.
Oh,
And it stars Rutger Hauer. Basically, it's a story about these three women who become friends via a flight because they're all from the Netherlands, and this is after World War II, and they are flying to New Zealand to immigrate there, and also they have, some of them are getting married or have husbands waiting for them. And on the flight there, a woman meets the younger version of Rutger Hauer, and they fall in love, but she is going to her husband. And then we have another married couple there, and I mean, it's very complicated, very soapy. And so they love each other, but they can't be together. And he then has a sort of a one-night stand with one of their friends who survived the Holocaust, lost all her family. She's very emotional about it. She has a baby, and she ends up giving it to her friend who is a married couple because they cannot have children. And they lie. They go away, and you know how they did back then. I didn't, so nobody finds out that she had this illegitimate baby. And she's like, but we're not Jewish. And she's like, I don't care what he is. She's so emotionally broken by the war, losing all her family. She just doesn't want any of that around. And they have this wonderful friendship. And then the one lady that he's in love with, I can't remember these people's names. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. But, she leaves her husband who's very controlling, and they get back together, have a brief affair. But then she goes back because she has children. And
what's it called?
Bride Flight.
Oh, cool.
And it's just like, it starts off on a plane with a bunch of brides headed to their husbands, live in New Zealand. And then there's a whole thing with the kid where the family then leaves, because she's afraid she's going to take the kid back. And they all come together. These three women come together in old age at his funeral.
Yeah.
And you start going through, flashbacks. And there's a beautiful moment where the two friends come together, and she's like, he knows he's adopted, but we will tell him if you want that you're his real mother, because they came clean to him. And she's like, no, forget it. And the thing that she tells her, she's like, he married a Jewish woman and he converted. And so unintentionally, he is still continuing on his Jewish heritage that she wanted to erase so much because of the pain of the war, and how that's finally healed. She's like, I wanted to have my family, because I was the only, because she has survivor's guilt. And it still continues unknowingly through her son. And it's not, and of course it's like lost love, redemption, and a whole bunch of lies. And it's a melodrama, but I do think it's beautifully filmed. Rutger Hauer, because this is a movie in his native language, and he doesn't have a big part in it, but it's wonderful to see Rutger Hauer in something like this. So it's like it takes place in like the Netherlands and New Zealand as well. So you're going back and forth.
Well, 2008 was actually hard for me because I do
Yeah.
love the original Iron Man. I think that's a great movie. And I think The Dark Knight is an excellent film. But I have to go with Slumdog Millionaire. I absolutely love this movie. I love this. I love the story and how like what a little bit of hope can do to get you through the hardest
Yeah.
things in life. And I know some people think it's too cheesy. I don't care. I love it. And I think it's a beautiful film, beautiful looking film. I love all the performances. It's one of my favorite Best Picture winners. And even though I know a lot of people would have it really low, I just think it's a really good story.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but do you
Yeah.
think it's been forgotten? Because a lot of people don't talk about it anymore.
No, but I just feel like a lot of people resent it because it won instead of The Dark Knight. That didn't get
No,
nominated.
The Dark Knight wasn't nominated.
Yeah, but people are like.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't even nominated, so it's not a fair.
Yeah.
It's not
you
a
get
fair.
a lot of people being like.
Yeah,
I
mean that is one of the reasons why they went back to the possible 10 up to 10
Yeah.
pictures. Yeah.
Well, what you have in 2009?
I have An Education,
Mm,
starring Carey Mulligan and Peter Sarsgaard,
it's
and
a good movie.
it's a wonderful coming of age story that people are like, wait, that was true? But yeah, in the 60s, your parents would let you marry a grown man. Like
Yeah.
it's really it does such a wonderful time getting in that time capsule, and like what she goes through. It's a real coming of age and a learning curve, and you feel so bad with this love story. Man she loved so much that is not who she thinks he is. And in one way it's creepy, but in another way it's not creepy. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's so well shot, so well acted. And I think it's, even though it's kind of a bummer, it does end on a very positive note. And she learns to not give up her dreams. She almost did, right? And she doesn't. And
Yeah.
I think it's got a good cast too.
Well, 2009 may be the finest year ever for animation. It was incredible. Fantastic Mr. Fox, Coraline. It had Princess and the Frog, which is flawed, but has good things about it. Up, it's just there's so many. And but I do have to go with Up. I do love it. I love Carl's journey when he finally sees that note from Ellie at the end and realizes she really did love him all along. And I love that. And I love everything about it, from the music to the story to the characters. So yeah, it's a special one. For a long time, I did say it was my favorite movie, period. So
yeah, it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
It'll ruin you those first 10 minutes, but what a ride.
Yeah, I'm like a mess. What do you have 2010?
I have Centurion. Stars Dominic West, Michael Fassbender, Olga Kurilenko. Basically, it's a story, they're Roman soldiers, and they get attacked, and some of them just have to survive the enemy who are out to kill them, and backstabbing and all this. So it's just a survival of the fittest, who's going to make it out. I think Juno Temple is also in this movie.
I've never heard of that one.
It was written and directed by Neil Marshall. So, yeah. It's
Well,
fun. I find it fun.
my 2010, I had to go with Tangled. I absolutely
Yes.
love Tangled. I love the story and this rom-com and their banter together. And I love Mother Gothel. She's such a great villain. And so yeah, it's my favorite. So what you have 2011?
I have to go with that version of Jane Eyre.
Oh, I love that one.
I
I'm
I
glad you picked that. I do love that.
I love Jane Eyre. It's my favorite book. And I think I've watched every English language adaptation there is. And there have been like that one from the 30s, that British one is rough, guys. But there
The
is
one
just
from I think it's 97, Kieran Hines. That one's not good either.
not that one's not great either.
And we
But
have a
Samantha,
ranking of I think 5 or 6 different Jane Eyre. We have
yeah,
an
like
episode,
I would have
which
had
is a
like
lot of
10 up in
fun.
here, Rachel. Like I would have been like, no, go to the 70s one. It's the most
Yeah.
accurate one.
I
Um,
love this movie
Yeah.
though. I really do.
I do think it's a refreshing take on
Mhm.
something that we've seen numerous times. And
Yeah.
I believe the last version, because when this film came out, they had just done a miniseries in what,
Yeah, which is so
2004,
good too.
2006 with Ruth Wilson, which is
Yeah, I
also
love
great.
that one too.
I love that version too. But there's just stylistically, yeah, I mean, Michael Fassbender is younger than he should be, and he's sexier than Rochester should be. But I just love that scene
Yeah.
when he's like, so tell me your tale of woe. And she's like, I have no woe. Like my parents
Yeah.
died, my aunt forced me here. And he
Oh,
goes, oh, so no tale of woe. And he just like goes, it's so hysterical. Like you buy the chemistry.
yeah.
Lovely
I love that scene when
costumes.
she's at St. John's and she
Oh,
fantasizes him coming through the snow on
yes.
the door. I
Oh, because
love
she
that.
does
Oh,
hear his voice in the book.
yeah.
And
So
so
good.
rarely do they do the last half of Jane Eyre
Mm-hmm.
really well in these
Yeah.
adaptations. Like so
Mhm.
rarely do they get that,
Yeah.
And St. John, man, like you want to hate him, but you can't hate him because he's so stuck in his ways.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is a wonderful. Oh, I love this version.
Well, 2011, I do love that film, but I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yes.
I think it is such a satisfying end
yeah.
to this
Mhm.
series.
Totally.
I loved the book. I thought she did such a good job of pulling everything together and giving Harry a really noble ending, where
Yeah.
he stands up against this evil, and it's just moving and exciting. And what's great about this movie too is that like every character that you become invested in has a moment, that's
Exactly, yeah. It's a
satisfying, whether it's
real
Neville
payoff.
or
Yeah.
Luna or whoever might be. And there's stakes, people die. It's it's emotional. It's just such a great conclusion to this whole series.
The smartest thing they ever did was breaking this book into 2 movies. And then because it was so successful, we have been burdened with
I mean, the first movie I don't really care for
I know, but I
much,
think I do think that it was smart to make it into, because there's a lot to cover. And I think
made all the payoff and is in this second
yeah, totally.
movie.
But I do think
Yeah.
I think it was smart, but it also cursed us with every single new YA adaptation
Right,
movie
yeah.
needing 2 endings like Twilight.
Right.
You don't need 2 endings for Twilight.
And sometimes they
like,
don't even finish them like that.
oh my gosh, I know. Like
what's
what?
it
Like
with,
you should have just done one and done. I mean, because it was so successful that we have been cursed now. When we
what is
needed
that
2 more
one with that who was Shailene Woodley?
Yeah, I can't remember the name. And then it was
Divergent.
supposed to. Yeah, it was supposed to go to a TV movie.
They
and then
never-
even that got scrapped.
They
Yeah.
never finished it.
Wow, like what you jokers. Like why? Because it's never worked.
Now they're
It
trying to
worked
do
for
it with Wicked.
Twilight.
I'm like, oh, it's so stupid.
It did work for
Dumb.
Twilight because Twilight was a whole different audience, but it wasn't going to work. They even did the Hunger Games like that. No, stop
Well,
it.
I
please.
mean, work is very loosely. It
Well,
made money, but
It made that's what I meant, like for that. But you didn't
Yeah.
know. Twiliight's a whole different. Like I howled at that one, but like, yeah, it's a good pick. Yeah, it did have a great payoff.
Yeah. So, what do you have? 2012.
I have an Israeli movie called Fill the Void.
Oh.
It is about, it's 2 sisters, and one of them is pregnant and married, and the other sister is going to a matchmaker and is, excited about the possibilities of her getting married and, finding a good match. She's looking forward to her future. and she has an aunt with no arms in it as well, which is like the various stages of like women and what they're going through in their life. But her sister dies. The baby lives, her sister dies, and her brother-in-law is bereft, and he's alone with this baby. And after some time, he's like, I'm going to move away to, I think it's Holland. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, but he had family there to help him. And the mother is so, she can't lose her grandchild after losing her daughter. So she makes an appeal, marry my other daughter. And he's like, I don't know if I want to marry my sister-in-law. And she's like, I don't know if I want to marry him. I thought I was, potentially going to marry this other guy. And the whole entire movie is them coming to terms. Is this the right decision or is this not? And I think it's a very
I never heard of
interesting
that one.
look.
What's it called again?
Fill the Void.
Oh, okay.
It's a very interesting look at, and the aunt is like, oh no, he should marry this other girl, who she's a bit older in age. So she's like the spinster. It's a very interesting look at this sect and how they live in the rules, because there's all different kind of sects of Judaism, and I just found this movie like so beautiful and so sad and at many times poignant, especially with the aunt who has no arms, and she's like, I want you to live a good life, and I never got married because who would marry me, and she also cares for this girl who's also older, and she goes, this could be a chance for her, and it's just and then the mother is so angry that the aunt is meddling and potentially ruining this chance of having her other daughter marry this man, because she feels like she's losing her family, and she's angrily feeding her like, you got to butt into the business. And it's like a sisterly relationship between sisters and all, and it has an interesting ending. Even in the ending, you're like, was this the right decision? And I do think people should check it out. It's, I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere, but I remember seeing it and just being blown away by it.
That sounds good. I hadn't heard of that. My choice feels very basic compared to that, but I have the Avengers.
Oh yeah.
I just think
they successfully put all those.
Yeah, that they combined together. All of these characters together. I love Loki as a villain. It's just, I think it's like such an entertaining film. It's such a good ride, and so yeah.
Yeah,
the Avengers.
I agree. It is entertaining how they pulled that off. They managed to pull it off.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's author Stacey Agdern and her new book, The Dreidel Disaster. From the author of The Dating Contract comes a Hanukkah story filled with hijinks, love, and problem solving. Mayor Olivia Nachman is ambitious and excited to be elected to the county legislature and better serve the community. Artur Rabnovich knows how to spin a story and fix almost any PR problem, but his skills are put to the test when he's hired to help untangle the mess that's been made in the village of Briarwood. This creates a new problem, balancing his attraction to the mayor he needs to work with and the need to impress his new boss. Will Liv and Artur learn to compromise and mix business with pleasure without jeopardizing the project or their careers before the dreidel spins its last? The Dreidel Disaster is the third book in Stacey Agdern's Last Girl Standing series and is available wherever books are sold. For more information about Stacey, go to her website, staceyagdern.com. That's staceyagdern.com.
So what do you have 2013?
I have The Conjuring. I love this Conjuring universe. This movie just made me just love this universe. I mean, I loved it. It felt like an old-fashioned horror movie, the way it was directed and filmed, and it's spooky and it's scary, and it's one of the most successful horror franchises we got going now that nobody realizes, and everything that's come with it, like Annabelle and all the stuff that's come from this first movie. And I don't know, it just, I don't even care I don't care about the real life Warrens, like whether you believe them or don't, or however you feel like that. I'm just thinking about what they created in the film.
Yeah.
I'm going to disassociate everything.
Always be.
Yeah, it's like I disassociate it from reality, and I just think about the world that the film presents. And I love those characters. And I'm so happy that we're getting, The Conjuring 4. And I'm so happy we're getting a TV series. And like, there's so many more that they could spin off from that haunted room. And I do think if you like a classic, the simplest things, like they went old school with practical effects, like the hand in the back clapping. That's like one of the scariest moments. It's so funny because when I went to go see this, Rachel, this was the great. I went to go see this in a movie theater. There was an older couple sitting behind me, and I would say they were in their 70s. And when it first starts going wrong and those pictures start falling like on the stairs, the older people went, get ready, it's coming. They were so excited to it was such a joy to see them being so excited, like, it's coming. Like they were like, let's go. Like, because they were reliving. And I talked to them and they were like, yeah, it was like the horror movies we watched when we were kids. Like it made them relive that. And it's just it's a great movie. It's spooky.
Well, I have for 2013, I have Frozen.
Yeah.
I know it's got its flaws. It's not perfect, but I do like the sister story, and I love Olaf as a character. I love the fact that he actually matters as a sidekick. He's the one that tells some things are worth melting for, and he tells Anna, about Kristoff and everything. You really don't understand what love means, and it's got some really great songs, some great music, especially of course Let It Go, and I love it. So
I know everybody feels the way about this movie, but it was still a great movie. It's still a great movie, and it was great when it came out. And I know everybody, because Let It Go became such a hit that everybody hates it, but it was fantastic. And I even think Frozen 2 was great, and I can't believe that didn't get nominated. What they did animation style with the water, but it is. I'm so sad, Rachel, because my niece is past this now, so she won't want to go see Frozen 3. But she dressed up like Elsa to go to the theaters.
Aww.
And at that time, anything emotional broke her. And when Olaf almost died, she was like, no, Titi, it's going to be okay. Everything will be okay. Eating her popcorn, in her Elsa outfit. It was spectacular.
Yeah. I have an Elsa cosplay, and
I viewed that movie through my niece's eyes, and I do love it. It is quite wonderful.
Well, what do you have 2014?
I have the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh,
I love me Wes Anderson, and sometimes I debate with myself, but I do think for me this is like my favorite that he has done. Just what a wonderful cast, and the way he changes.
I agree. I'd either pick that or Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah,
because I'm in animation. But yeah,
the way he changes
really
like the aspect ratio too, and Ralph Fiennes is so good in this movie.
And the whimsy really works for that story, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, I could easily have Boyhood. I do love Boyhood, but I decided to actually go with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes for this year. I've been thinking about it because I was very underwhelmed by this most recent one, and I know a lot of people loved it. I didn't like it, and this one I think really gets that balance of like emotion and heart with the action, and apes on horses, and just everything. And when Gary Oldman when Gary Oldman's character is able to power on his device and see the pictures of his family, that was so moving to me. And it had never occurred to me that like I just stopped printing photos. I mean,
same. Yes.
We just don't, because it's just all on our devices. And if you lost power, you would lose all of those images. You wouldn't have.
It's true. I've gone back to printing them. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's so true.
And so that whole scene was one of the most powerful scenes I've ever seen, like in a movie. It really, really gets to me. And I just think it's a really, really great movie, and good story. It was a great trilogy, but I especially love the second one. So what do you have 2015?
I have a Norwegian film called The Wave.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's basically they're on this island, and a scientist, the family's getting ready to leave. He's going to the mainland because he's got a new job, but he just feels like something's up. I feel something's off. and he kind of delays his family leaving. And it's true, he's like, a tidal wave is coming. So it's the whole thing about, are they going to survive this tidal wave? And it is so well done. And it's like, you are like, whoa, you are so in the moment of when that tidal wave happens and what happens to these characters. And you're like, oh my gosh. They even made a sequel to this movie called The Quake, which has no business being as good as it is, but it's good.
Uh-huh.
And I would
Like it's in the
say
same. It's an actual sequel.
it's an
Same-
actual sequel because now they're in the mainland.
Funny.
And you know, they've left the father because he can't get over the events of the tidal wave, and an earthquake happens in the mainland. And it's like, it has no business being good, Rachel, but it is. I would
Mhm.
advise everybody to first watch The Wave with its terrible English dub. So
Oh.
you can see visually, it's like when that tidal wave comes, you're like, oh my gosh. You can you can pay attention to what's happening
Yeah.
and then go back to it and watch it with the subtitles. But it does have an incredibly not great English dub. Like those actors are like unbelievable. Like I was like, are you nervous or what? What's going on here? But I would say watch it like that first so you can absorb everything and then go back and watch it with the subtitles. It's really better, but at least you've seen the spectacle, already.
Yeah. Well, my 2015, I have to go with Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
The action scenes, it's really a war movie. They go from one kind of battle to another battle to another battle. So this lack of story doesn't really bother me too much because I'm just so engrossed in kind of what's happening. And I mean, I was kind of also underwhelmed by this Furiosa, the recent one, and so it's been fresh on my mind, and just how well this movie works, and how exciting, and just how fresh it was, and the visuals, and the action, and I don't know. I just think it's really an amazing experience to watch. So I have a 2015. What do you have? 2016.
I don't know if this is a French or Polish movie, or it could be both countries, but it's called The Innocents Haunting Story. I believe it is based on a true story, but it is this French nurse, and she is in Poland, and this is during World War II, and she's working with helping out the French. Like she's part of the Red Cross. Yes, that's what she's a nurse. She's part of the Red Cross. I believe the war is over at this point, if I'm remembering correctly. And she's working there in Poland, and she meets a nun, and the nun is like, can you help us out, but keep
What's it
all of this
called?
secret? The Innocents. And she goes to the nunnery, and basically the gist of it is all these nuns are keeping the secret that they were during the Germans, the occupation. They stayed in the nunnery and they raped all the nuns, and the nuns are now all pregnant. And this nurse has to find, and like one of the nuns was even like leaving the babies out to die because she didn't know what to do with them. And so this nurse has to hide what she's doing because these nuns are like, we can't tell anybody. And she goes, there's no shame in it. But she's like, there is a shame for us for the nuns. It's very like, because they are Catholic nuns. And it's sort of like trying to get that. But she does help deliver all these babies. And the nuns then start an orphanage where they're like, oh, because the nuns have taken in children also, like older children that have lost their families. And so it makes sense that, oh, there's babies now. And it's like allegedly based on a true story, which I am almost certain that it probably is. Um, uh, Truthful in that aspect. But yeah, it's a whole like you shouldn't be, it's like shame and religion and God and acceptance, and not every nun is the same, and one nun was like, no, I loved my person, like she leaves being the nunhood, I loved him, and the nurse is like, hey, you got that's a twisted version of love, what happened to you, and like these nuns are also like, it didn't matter what age they were, because some of the older nuns are actually dying of a venereal disease, and it's so tragic, and so it's like a different horrific side of the war
Yeah.
and how people deal with it. and it's tragic, and it's like you feel for all of these nuns, no matter what age, no matter if you agree with them or not, because some of these young nuns are devastated and they don't know what to do. They want to continue being in service to God, but they're also like going to be a mother. It's heart-wrenching. And I mean, like, this is not like I'm going to sit in for a romp. No, you're in it. You're in it with
Yeah.
this one. But it is wonderfully acted.
Well, mine is definitely a romp. So you can watch it
Yes,
mine
you can enjoy
after.
this one without being bummed out.
I have Sing Street is
Yes.
my next one for 2016. I absolutely love this movie. I love the relationship between the two brothers. I think it's so well done. I don't even mind the ending, even though it's super cheesy. I love it. They're driving off into their future. I love the songs. I think it's super charming. The whole idea of him starting this band to impress this girl, and him standing up in front of all the other students and this teacher who's like very abusive, or his principal. And I absolutely love it. I remember the first time I saw it at Sundance and just being like, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and just being so excited, to see something like that. And I still can't believe that none of the songs got nominated.
True,
It's
true
so
that.
absurd, so absurd. But what you have 2017?
I have a French movie called The Guardians. It takes place during the Second World War and a little bit after it. Basically, all the men go off to war, and this mother and daughter are left on a farm to keep the farm going, keep it alive. And what's wonderful is that the actors are real life mother and daughter. So there's such a connection. They get a farmhand, they get an orphan to come, and one of her sons dies. And this orphan feels very a part of the family. And then the other brother comes for a bit from war, and the stepdaughter is in love with him, but he falls in love with the farm maid. She ends up getting pregnant, but there are rumors about that one of them is having an affair with the American soldiers, and the mother believes it's her daughter, and she wants to protect her daughter's reputation and her marriage, but her daughter is not guilty of it, and she blames it all on the farmhand and fires her, and the son never talks to her again. And she ends up trying to rectify this. I mean, this all takes place during the war and then after some. It's a very melodramatic. It's like what women had to do to survive while the men were gone, essentially. The loneliness, the hardship of it, the judgment. And this woman does not tell her son she's pregnant. She ignores her. She abandons this lady. But she ends up going, I'm going to be all right no matter what if I'm abandoned. So she's a very strong woman. And it's like very three different women with all different, like, the mother is so, we're going to keep this farm, we're going to keep this at no costs. And the daughter is like, was it really worth it? And then the young girl is like left alone with her child, but is not broken by it. She won't let anything get past her down, because now she has a child and she has something to live for and to strive for. And it's wonderful acting, like just the stuff women go through, and the decisions we have to make. And especially at that time where sometimes you have to be an evil person because you think you're doing the right decision and it's the wrong decision. And it's a little long, but it's beautifully shot and it's wonderfully acted. And I was like, oh, I love this. Well, with my tissue,
Well, my 2017 pick, I went with the US release date for Your Name. Everybody knows I love this movie. I love the story. I love that it starts out in like a silly place and then goes to this darker place, and it really takes you on a journey. You laugh, you cry, you get excited, you're thrilled, everything. I love the messages of the whole movie I love the fact that Taki and Mitsuha come to understand each other, and when you walk in somebody else's shoes, literally they've swapped bodies, you understand and you want to fight for them, because once you start to feel like it's really a movie about empathy and love. And when you've walked in somebody else's shoes, when you've tried to experience what they experience, you will do whatever you can to try to rescue and help them. And so it's a beautiful movie. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. The music is great. It's just it's a movie. Every time I watch it, I see a different layer. I see something new with the way they interweave the Shinto religion and the cultural traditions of the weaving that they do, and the bands, and there's some kind of, I guess, magic, time travel elements. I just love it. So it's one of my, if not my favorite movie, it's up there.
Yeah.
So what do you have 2018?
I have The Favorite. What a take on Queen Anne's life, but I love the cast. I love Rachel Weisz in this, and Olivia Colman is so great. And it's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, so take it with that. But I do just love, and like, how sinister and how gullible the court life is. You have to stay cutthroat above everybody else to survive.
Yeah.
And how Queen Anne is just so pathetic in a sense, but it's also funny and outrageous. And you're like, I can see how people were like this in real life. And, it plays with was Queen Anne a lesbian or not, sort of debate that people have, because you don't know for sure.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
She had a very tragic life, in reality. She lost 14, 15 children. And she was the last in that particular line. And then it went to another branch of the family after she died. But to the Hanovers, I think it went to. But it's such an elaborate, and the sort of the downfall of Rachel Weisz's character, which she kind of had in real life as well. The costumes are beautiful by Sandy Powell. There's a look to it. And I was just like, this is an interesting.
I mean, in the world
look
of Lanthimos,
at royalty,
in the world of Lanthimos, it's definitely his most approachable, I would say.
It is. I would say absolutely this is the most, and it's an interesting look at royalty,
Yeah. Did you see Kinds of Kindness?
I have not yet. No, I have heard things about that movie.
Unbearable, unwatchable.
Yeah. I have not seen that, but yes, I would say that this is the most approachable of his film. I think it has to do because it is royalty in a sense.
Yeah.
It is that look in it. And also if you watch what is it? Is it The Queen about or The Great on Hulu? It had 3 seasons. It kind of has the same vibe to it, but that's about the Empress of Russia. But it almost has the same outrageous comedic vibes to it.
Yeah.
There's a moment where they're just throwing food at these people, and it's so savage and barbaric. And I was like, I can see this really happening at this time. It's almost unbelievable, but believable at the same time.
Yeah.
But
Well, I had to go for 2018. I had to go Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. An absolute masterpiece, if you ask me. The incredible animation. I was awestruck, especially the first time I saw it, but every time, even still, it's just unbelievable how beautiful when he does the big leap scene where he jumps off the building the first time. That is just a masterpiece in animation. And I think Miles is a very likable character, so it's not just about style. I think there's some substance there to the story and to him kind of realizing what he wants to do in his life and coming to terms with his uncle and his parents and just everything that's happening. And I just love it. So, and all the Spider-Man, so much fun. Spider-Pig, anime Spider-Man, all that. He's
Yeah.
great. So, what do you have 2019?
I went with Downton Abbey because I
Mm.
felt like I was like, is this going to live up to the show, which I loved?
Mm-hmm.
And it did. It felt like coming home.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way when I went to go see A New Era. And I was like, is it going to? And it felt like coming home. And you know what?
And we're
That
gonna get
third
another
movie
one. Yeah.
is going to feel like coming home. But
Mhm.
I think he successfully, Julian Fellows successfully, and the cast successfully pulled it off as an extension of the show. And I was just so happy to be in that world again.
I'd agree.
And it was delightful. And I really do think, I mean, because when I went to go see this movie, it was various people of various ages, but I do think past COVID, when the new era wasn't as successful as the first movie, at least here in America, is I think that the audience, because of the COVID, has
Yeah.
changed.
I'm
Like
glad they're
they
giving it
might,
another shot.
yeah, because I don't know if they came out, like the older crowd came out to see this movie, or if the older crowd is still alive, not to be morbid, but there's various age, everybody of every age likes the show. So, but it was delightful. I felt like I was like, I'm coming home, and I can't wait for the third
Yeah.
movie. I don't care,
Same. Well, I had for my pick for 2019, I think a perfect film is Parasite. It is such a well-made movie. It is, and especially once you find out, the behind the scenes of this movie, it's even more amazing that like this whole house doesn't even exist. It's almost all like through various special effects and the way that they shot it with different green screen. Like it's amazing once you find out about the set of this house. This house is not real. That was amazing to me. But even
That's a
so,
good
like I
movie.
just think everything that happens, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen. That's interesting. And I think that better than almost any film that I know, it has something to say, it has a message, but it does it in such an effective, palatable way. So you don't feel like you're being preached to. You don't feel like, but it has a lot to say about class and capitalism and all that stuff, which could be so annoying. But it just does it so well, and it's just part of the story, and it's authentic to the characters. Like when the dad starts the owner starts to notice that the dad smells. Oh, you smell, and like just little things like that that were about that are about class and about the difference. Were so brilliant, and it's such a great script, and there's so many great scenes, like when they're underneath the table and the people go home and they're waiting for to finish making this food. And I don't know, I just think it's a great movie. So what do you have 2020?
What a weird year. This is the COVID year.
Wasn't much.
It wasn't much, and I really had to think about it. And I was like, I like this movie. It's not my favorite, but I'm gonna go with Emma. The latest iteration of Emma. I was charmed by it. I thought it was a good adaptation. I thought that, it stands apart. I love the color scheme of it. I thought it was very vibrant and all the pastel colors, and it had a good cast, and it's some interesting decisions. Like, I don't know if I needed all those shots of the rear end, but it's there. So, I do think they have great chemistry, and they kept the humor. So there's a charm to it, most definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it too. That would be my pick. I love the different choices that they made, and Johnny Flynn. Oh,
yeah, so handsome.
Oh.
Yeah,
and I love the way they use music in it, and I kind of liked that they chose to show it from the servant's perspective. I thought that was interesting.
It's almost like, look at these ridiculous rich people. That is what the main vibe is. Like, I get it.
It's been done so many times. You got to try to have your own.
Yeah. Oh my God, all that food when they brought it down, it is like so like you are ridiculous, And I loved what they did with the dad, a nice fresh take on that, It's such a good cast too.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we had Emma, we've had Clueless, and The Birdcage that were the same. That's it.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Oh, you have Emma too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what do you have 2021?
I know you don't like this movie, Rachel, but I picked Dune. I was blown away by it. I had very low expectations of it. I like sci-fi, but I'm not always the biggest fan of very dense sci-fi. And I was like, this is going to be dense, but I sat there and I was like, I am loving every single moment of this movie. And I was
I think
sold.
it's well done for Dune, so I totally get
Yeah.
it. It's just
No, but
not
like, yeah, I
for
just
me.
love the story, and I was like, I get it, and I was like, yes. I mean, I'm not gonna go into Dune the books. Like, I might one day because, again, I'm not that into. I don't know. I was won over by the denseness of the sci-fi, and there's a lot to keep up with. But I was like, I love you, Dune. You know, I
Yeah,
love you. I
yeah,
loved
I
it
get
so
it.
much that I got the 4K for Christmas. Like,
Oh,
I
nice.
talked about it so much. My sister goes, "Here, gosh, you're annoying me."
My 2021, it's got to be Tick Tick Boom. I
Yeah.
absolutely just
I still have
loved
not
this
seen this one,
movie.
Rachel.
I loved the songs. I loved the journey that Jonathan goes on, and the struggle of being a creative. I really related to and connected with, and especially that like when he finally gets his big break, he dies the day before premiere. Like it's just like that added like a poetic layer to me, knowing Jonathan's story. And and it was when it meant a special amount because Broadway was closed that year.
Yeah.
So, to have this, it was so good, in my opinion.
And
I
he
loved it.
wrote Rent, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he died the day before.
Yeah, he died before it came out, yeah.
The day before.
Oh, wow.
So, but what you have 2022?
I can't believe I picked this one, but I went with Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
I was
pick.
so surprised at how enjoyable and how good this movie. I don't even like the original Top Gun. I don't think that's that good of a movie. And I had low expectations, but I was curious to see it. It's so funny because it sat on the shelf for so long. And it's funny because Sonic the Hedgehog, the first movie and the second movie, were all made and released before Top Gun Maverick ever was. And they started filming it like when they did the first movie for the Sonic.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was like, wow, like they really, it just blew me away. And I was like, this movie had no business being that good. It didn't. It had no business being that good, and it was.
Yeah, I agree. It was excellent. Probably the best legacy sequel ever.
Totally. Yeah.
It was excellent. I have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Another sequel that I did not expect to be so good. It was like, and when I saw the first trailer, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, roll my eyes there. And I ended up just being wowed by it. I absolutely just thought the animation was next level, incredible. The way they did the action, the way that they captured the characters was just stunning. I loved all of the villains, that they had 3 villains and they managed to pull it off. And the wolf was so scary, and it had something to say about aging and life and what's a valuable life. But then it also I thought it did generational trauma better than almost anything else. And Disney's been, gnawing at that bone for the last 20 years with Goldilocks and her family. And that was so well done. And it was so creative. And I can't overstate how big of a surprise it was. I had just been going through all these Oscar screeners, and then I had gotten I think a DVD for it. I put in the DVD, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go. I put in the DVD, and my mouth was just agape. I could not believe how good it was, and I really admire them, because they could have easily just phoned it in and given us a generic, fine, perfectly adequate Puss in Boots sequel,
Right.
That would have been, look what they did with Megamind this year. Absolutely atrocious. And they could have easily done that, but they didn't. They, in my opinion, made an animated masterpiece. And I was shocked, and it was so exciting because especially that year, there were just so few of those Oscar movies that I was loving. So it makes you believe in people that they'll try harder than they have to, and that feels good. And I just loved this movie. I just think it's really special. And so yeah, it kind of gave me faith in studio filmmaking.
Now, do you think that when they eventually do that Shrek remake or sequel, that it will have this current animation style?
I hope so. I'm sure there'll be a point where this hybrid animation style that's, you know, popular right now will
Yeah.
people get a little tired of it, but that moment is not now, at least for me. I
No.
love it.
Yeah.
And what people are doing with it, and it's exciting to me that we're pushing Disney. Disney's the last to kind of, they did a little bit of it in Wish and it was a total failure, but
But that's the story, I think.
yeah, well, the story, but the animation also, like, you could tell they were trying to do this, but not like not 100%. And so I think that I do think that it'll have that different feel, and that's exciting to me. But you know, we'll just see. It's exciting to see the medium of animation just continually evolving, and I don't know when I've seen a better, more interesting, exciting time in animation since the Renaissance. I really don't. There are just so many interesting, especially if you open your mind to international animation. Just posted today an episode of my other podcast where we were talking about Chicken for Linda and Robot Dreams, which are just wonderful. There's just so many great animated films and artists that are really being allowed to flourish, and it's exciting. So yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what makes the cut for the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, and then like DreamWorks, you've got
year.
Wild Robot this year. That looks so good. Fingers crossed.
Right.
It looks so good, you know. And then last
year, it's going to be
year,
interesting to see what makes it and what doesn't make it. You know.
Yeah. But what you have for 2023?
I have a Turkish film, Make Me Believe.
Oh yeah,
it's a rom-com. It's just lovely. It's beautiful people.
I still need to watch
Sun Kiss at the seaside. Basically, they were childhood friends who had a little fling. They don't like each other, and their grandmas are next door neighbors, and they try to get them together. So there's a lot of shenanigans with them trying to get them together.
Nice.
And it so turns out that he's this exclusive artist, photographer that she's trying to been getting for years, an interview with her magazine, that she's hoping to get a promotion. And of course, there's a misunderstanding. I know, it's so delightful. These people are beautiful, Rachel. Like,
nice.
Beautiful. I mean,
well, I also have rom-com. I have Red, White, and Royal Blue. I loved this movie. I thought they had incredible chemistry. I thought it did enemies to lovers so well.
Yes.
I was really invested in their journey when they have that dance together in the gallery. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I really hope the sequel is good.
I know. I'm nervous. Worried. I'm nervous. I just feel like I just think for what it was trying to do and the type of story it was telling, it was so effective.
It's so good, yeah.
And their chemistry was so good. And I love the ending when he comes I'll be there. I'll be on the next plane. Oh,
so I know. Like that sequel better be good.
I know. Well, what's your favorite movie this year so far?
Well, I'm going to pick Horizon. Part 1, Chapter 1, whatever it was called, the first part of Horizon from Kevin Costner. I love Westerns. It gave me everything that I wanted to see in a Western. There was a lot of homages to these classic films that I love, like The Searchers and whatnot. And you could tell that Kevin Costner loves the genre. And I know it's a little long for people, and somehow it was controversial. I don't know how. But I enjoyed it as a person who loves Westerns and old school Westerns. It gave me everything I wanted to see. And I'm sad that we're not going to see part 2, at least anytime soon. It'll probably go to streaming. Yeah. But we've been conditioned to watch Westerns on television these last couple of years. And so that might be
like rom-coms.
Yeah, it's like it's a part of the reason why I don't think that they make that much money theatrically anymore, because we can see them on television. But I loved it. It had such a sprawling cast, and I loved it that we have to wait like 30 minutes or more than that before Kevin Costner comes on screen. And I just love that he had the restraint enough to he does have kind of like this heroic shot coming out on a horse, don't get me wrong, but he had the restraint in like not making himself the focus of it, and really just telling this very sprawling story of the West. And I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, I think my favorite movie that I've seen so far this year, there's been some good candidates. I really enjoyed Ghostlight. I really enjoyed Chicken for Linda as far as the indie animated. So there's movies like that. But my favorite movie that I've seen so far this year has got to be The Wild Robot. And I really think that this is pretty close to a perfect film. I just absolutely just thought it had such heart and soul. I think animation was absolutely beautiful. I just loved the story of this robot basically gaining her humanity through nurturing another person. And the act of motherhood basically is inherently transformative. And here you have this. I've never felt like I was a particularly like nurturing person, but like you'd like to think if given the opportunity that it would change me and that I would that it would be a transformative experience. How could it not? And I just thought it was such a beautiful story to have this robot like be fundamentally changed by the act of nurturing this little geese. I thought it was so cute and heartwarming and I really appreciated too there was like no attempt to kidify it like really at all. You had the fox who was a little bit of a smart aleck, but like not in the way that DreamWorks used to do things with like the pop culture references and none of that. This was taken more seriously and I just really loved it. I thought it was great. And so that's my favorite movie of 2024. So there we go. We did it. That is the end of this series. Make sure you listen to part 1 as well. And this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Terry, for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was
Yes.
a blast.
Yes. So we want to know what you think. So put it in the comment section or on Twitter what your picks would be, what you think of our picks. We would love to hear. And Terry, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Flurry Heaven.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, check out the Homebreakers podcast. We have a ton of ranking episodes on various topics that we've done over there. So if you like our banter and our going back and forth, then you should definitely check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you're listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support. And we've got some awesome perks coming up. So please take a look. And we have the merch store where we have some new holiday inspired designs. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.